It's 1:30. I'd like to call the September 16, 2013 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Roll call. Commissioner Witcher?
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield?
Here, sir.
Commissioner Newton? He said he wasn't going to be here. Commissioner Hale?
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline?
Here.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Here.
Commissioner George? Here. And Commissioner Yonkel?
Here.
Very good, thank you. We do have a quorum. I'd like to have a motion concerning the minutes of the August 19, 2013 meeting, please.
I move that the minutes be approved.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? We have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, minutes are approved. There'll be no item 3. That'll be given in October. Item 4 is the consent docket. Is there anybody here to speak against an item on the consent docket? Anything on the consent docket? Nothing on the consent docket. Do I have a motion concerning the consent docket?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hale to approve the consent docket. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on the consent docket? Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent docket from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Consent docket is approved. We go on now to item 5, items for individual consideration. First one is item 5A, Independent Cab Company, LLC, 7612 Northwest 8th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73127, to consider a request to amend the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity issued to Independent Cab Company, LLC, in order to increase their fleet size from 40 to 140 vehicles in taxi service. Yes, sir. Can I have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Garcia Cabuese, and my address is 9777 North Council Road, Oklahoma City, 73162. And I represent Independent Cab, and a few months ago, 2 years ago, we were here for approval, and we approved for 40 permits. But we have taken some other undertakings, such as getting a contract with a COP here to participate with the chef program, taking the elderly and physically challenged people from point A to point B, and they still give the same service. But in order to do that, we need to increase our fleet to enable us to fulfill our contractual obligation.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff input, please.
All right, you've got all our comments before you. As you mentioned, this is an application to increase the fleet size of Independent Cab from 40 to 140 vehicles in taxi service, and we're recommending approval of the amendment as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5A?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve item 5A,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved.
Thank you, council members.
Thank you. Okay, item 5B, Jordan Sam, 14990 West MacArthur Road, Yukon, Oklahoma, 73099, to consider a request for the addition of a north and southbound stop signs on North Piedmont Road, which is also State Highway 4, at West Hefner Road to establish all-way stop control. You have anybody speak on this item, sir? May I have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got all our comments before you. The only collisions that have occurred on this particular road were ones that didn't involve any more than one vehicle, and they're both rollovers. The biggest thing that you need to consider here is that the decision sight distance as you're on Hefner Road, getting ready to cross Piedmont Road, as you're looking north and south from both the east and west approaches does not pass our sight distance requirements based on Piedmont Road's 45-mile-an-hour posted speed limit. Probably the single reason why we have not experienced more collisions here is if you look at on the first sheet of your report where you look at the traffic entering volumes, you'll see that we carry about 4,000 vehicles per day on Piedmont Road as opposed to about 560 on Hefner Road, so the opportunity for collisions is not that great. The manual on uniform traffic control devices has got a bunch of traffic and collision history related warrants with respect to considering always stop control at an intersection such as this. The intersection does not meet any of the traffic-based warrants. However, one of the things that the manual does give you, and this appears on page 5 of your report, is you can consider other criteria when making your judgment, and one of those refers to locations where locations where a road user after stopping cannot see conflicting traffic and is not able to negotiate the intersection unless conflicting cross traffic is also required to stop. Well, obviously that hasn't been the experience that we've had at this location, but it's certainly cause to consider looking at the request in light of the fact that, the decision sight distance is less than half of what we ordinarily require. So action on this one will be at the discretion of the Commission. I can tell you that if it's approved, because Piedmont Road is also State Highway 4, we'd have to send your recommendation to the consideration of ODOT's Traffic Engineering Division, who will then evaluate it, and if deemed appropriate, they'll send it on with a recommendation to the Oklahoma Highway Commission, because the stop controls or any regulatory traffic control change on a road that's designated as a state highway is subject to the state's jurisdiction.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I'm going to move approval mostly so that we can have discussion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Witcher, second by Commissioner Yonkel. Do we have any talk on this item?
I'd like the feedback of the rest of the commission. It seems like I'm familiar with the intersection, and it does seem like it's potentially dangerous, and with the site decision, I've experienced that myself. We don't have the we don't have the collision history to really back up my concern, and it would be the only stop sign from 39th Street to Northwest Expressway, several miles. So in a way, I guess I made this motion because it seems like a good idea, but I haven't sold myself on it yet.
Any other talk on this item?
If I'm reading page 9 correctly, though, if you look on Hefner Road, it is the only one where there's not an existing four-way stop. So it would make it more consistent that direction.
Any other talk on this item? Well, I'd like to just, okay, go ahead, sir.
Any action we do is going to, if we do approve this, it's going to have to go to the states. Is that correct? Yes. Can we refer Mr. Sam to the state, correct, or will it have to come through us first?
Well, in this particular case, it needs to go through the Commission. And in the past, when we've had issues that have come up, there have been stop control has been approved through the Commission at some intersections, I think at like Southwest 119th Street and Southwest 104th Street, where they cross I-44. Those have gone through the Commission for approval, and the state has acted. They've done some stop signs, but based on their reviews, they've not installed everything. They've not agreed with all the actions of the Commission. So it is subject to the state ultimately.
Stuart, I find it interesting that both of the collisions that were here were single-car rollovers. Is there anything about this intersection that could be improved? I find that unique that both of them were single-car rollovers. Talk to me a little bit about if there's something here that could improve that. I am in favor of the additional stop signs.
Well, the alignment on Piedmont Road kind of winds in places. I mean, if you look to this, at the bottom of page 9 on that aerial view, you can see that down at as far south as Wilshire Boulevard, there are curves that lead into that intersection. And there's a little bit of curvature here, too, over at where Hefner Road crosses. The summarized information that we get from the Department of Public Services Department of Public Safety doesn't necessarily provide a comprehensive view. I mean, it's not the same thing as the collision report filed by the officer. It's kind of a summary of information. So I couldn't really speak to what the causes of, what might have caused those rollovers. There's no telling.
And at Piedmont Road, the highway is just one lane going each way, and it wouldn't, if you're going too fast, I think that would be the cause. And that kind of speaks to something else. If we add stop signs here, at least on Piedmont Road, or if we add stop signs for Piedmont Road, we need to have some kind of early notification for drivers, because I doubt that there are many folks who keep themselves at 45 along there.
An alternative to that, because it would be a relatively unusual location, is we could always install a supplemental, flashing warning sign, or maybe we even look at some of the LED enhanced stops that we've got. That's always an alternative, because, like I said, this would be, from a Piedmont Road user's perspective, this will be an odd duck.
Okay. Any other talk?
How do I ask this right? The applicant isn't here to ask questions. Is this something that is deferred until the applicant can attend and we ask more questions of him? I'm not saying I require that, but it's healthy to have that dialogue with them. Do we know why someone's not here to represent the item?
No, when we were putting the agenda together, we were trying to find contact information for the applicant. They had sent their request into the city by mail, and we weren't able to find a telephone number for them, email, anything. So the only thing we could do is we got their postcard out in the mail on Tuesday. So that was the only method we had of reaching them to let them know their case was coming up. I mean, if the commission decides it wants to defer the item, we can send another letter to them letting them know that their item was deferred, and that's, if you really want to get some area feedback and talk to the person who applied for this, there's nothing wrong in deferring the action until the next meeting to see if we can get them here to talk.
Did we put out one of those signs, or because it wasn't a residential area, did we post that there was going to be done? Okay.
No, we didn't. We typically don't at like Arturo Road intersection.
Okay.
And the applicant lives just about 3 miles, I think, due west from this intersection.
Okay. Any other talk on this item?
If we were to approve this, do we need to somehow amend it so that we would add the prior notifications and the flashing signs, or is that just something that staff would do administratively?
If you wanted to add that as or recommend that something like that be used, that's fine. You can I would say that you can just make that motion.
Then I'd like to amend the motion to add the flashing notification of the stop sign coming up.
Or the appropriate notification, or?
Okay.
Yeah. So we're amending the motion from Commissioner Witcher to include proper pre-notice coming up to a four-way stop if this gets approved.
I think it's only necessary on
Right.
Piedmont Road.
Right.
On those.
Okay. And how's our second? Do you agree?
I concur.
Okay. So any more talk on this item? Okay, so we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel, with an addition of ensuring the staff does proper pre-notification on Piedmont. Okay. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, item 5C, Linda Palmer, 1600 North Sterling Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73127, Consider a request for no parking Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. restriction on both sides of North Sterling Avenue from Northwest 16th Street to Northwest 15th Street. Anybody here talk on this item, sir? Okay, can you fill out a blue card after you're done, please?
Okay.
And then, is that it there? No? Okay. Okay, and if I could have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Linda Palmer. I'm president of Hilldale Neighborhood Association. I live on 1600 Sterling Avenue. And my reason for this petition is the cars are parked on both sides of Sterling Avenue. The children run back and forth in between those parked cars, and I'm fearful that one of those children are going to get run over. There's barely enough room for the school bus to pull in between the parked cars. Not sure that a fire truck could get through there if necessary, but that is my plea, that no children get run over. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Staff input, please.
Okay, you've got our comments before you. Ms. Palmer circulated a petition to all residents in the area. She got 100% participation, and she also had 100% of the people within the required petition canvas area signing in favor of it. If the commission would want to consider an amendment to this item, they might want to consider an amendment to it that would limit it to be in effect school days only. If
That would be great.
Okay, if I was about to say, because this particular issue, we've got some rather telling photographs that are included in the item that show basic parking conditions that occur on this one block between 15th and 16th Street. And as you can see, there's instances where cars are parked across driveways. School buses aren't able to negotiate it, but that's it. I mean, when it gets parked in pretty solidly. And at the time that we were out there to watch an afternoon, school get out at Hilldale in the afternoon, it was somewhat of a free-for-all, but anyhow. But but an amendment like that, maybe if the commission wants to entertain tailoring it down so that it's only in effect during school days, would probably work for the neighborhood, but I would defer to the applicant on that.
That would be excellent if you would consider that. During school days is our only problem.
All right, and other than that, staff would recommend approval of the item as submitted.
Okay. Do you have a motion concerning item 5C?
I move to approve with the condition that it be on school days.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins, to approve item 5C to include school days only. Do we have any talk on this item? Yes, ma'am.
I see it's an elementary. Is there a gymnasium, any Saturday tournaments, sports events, things that we need to consider?
I really don't think so, since it is an elementary school.
No.
There's an occasional activity in the evenings, but it's not as bad in the evenings if they have something at the school as it is after school.
Okay, I have one comment. If you could go back one slide, showing the one with the bus. There you go. Are these vehicles that are parked there not residential people?
No, sir.
Okay, so Saturday, Sunday, you usually don't have cars next to each other on each side of the street?
That's correct.
Okay.
Most everyone parks in their driveways.
Okay, because I was going to say, your concern about the large ladder truck, those kind of things going through there, that's not a concern for a Saturday or Sunday kind of thing?
No.
It's just school?
It's
that does
just
that.
during the week.
Okay. Anybody else have any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins, to include school days only to the restrictions. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved.
Thank you so much.
Item 5D, Mr. Kendall Dillon, P.E., Crafton, Toll and Associates, 214 East Main Street, Oklahoma City, 73104, to consider a request to, 1, change the speed limit on Northwest 115th Street between North Council Line Road and North Rockwell Avenue from 50 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour, and 2, to change the speed limit on Northwest 150th Street between North Rockwell Avenue and North MacArthur Boulevard from 50 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. Somebody here to speak on this issue, sir? Okay, just make sure to fill out a blue card when you're done, please. If I could have your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm Kendall Dillon with Craft and Toll, 214 East Main. And in regards to our request to lower the speed limit on Northwest 150th Street, you can see by the exhibit up there that we are proposing and would like to develop a residential neighborhood. But if you'll notice the track that is on the east side, it's separated by a large pond as well as some jurisdictional water by the Corps of Engineers and FEMA floodplain as well. So we are limited in regards to access to that generally 63 acres. The only access that we really have to it is off of 150th, and you can see by the exhibit up there that we have very little frontage, about a little over 400 feet, I believe, of frontage along 150th Street. In regards to an access point there, we are struggling to make the site distance work, and therefore that's the purpose of our application. If you look at the area, though, that we've requested this change, I think your staff report mentions there's 18 drives, and I think 12 of them do not currently comply. So there's several little knolls and up and down 150th Street, so we feel like not only to help us out, but this general area, it makes sense, and therefore we'd request that change. Answer any questions?
All right, thank you very much. Do you have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got all our report comments before you. As Mr. Dillon mentioned, there were a number of driveways that we looked at on the miles between County Line Road and Rockwell, and based on the currently posted 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, about a dozen of them did not pass decision site distance requirements. It's not to say that, when we looked at some of these, we got measurements at each one, and if you tried to come up with a comprehensive solution that would work so that all would pass site distance requirements, you'd wind up with an arterial road posted down in the neighborhood of 35 miles an hour. But that's not a realistic speed for the area. Although the mile to the west of County Line Road is posted 35, but the total roadway width drops down to less than 20 feet, and that road's not in necessarily the best of condition, so it wouldn't be advisable to have a very high closing speed on something like that was so narrow. So consequently, what we've done is, after we looked at his request, we looked at kind of the bigger picture for this portion of the city. It would make sense to transition some of the speeds that go from 35 to the west of County Line Road to where they meld with 45, which is east of MacArthur. And so what we're proposing is transitioning from 35, then using 40, in line with his request, having the miles between County Line and Council and Rockwell posted at 40, and then stepping up the speed between Rockwell and MacArthur to 45, where it would meld with 150th Street to the east of MacArthur. So this would have a tendency to at least have some aspect of consistency through there, and it's not an unreasonable speed given the fact that it's going to be continuing to develop. So staff is recommending approval of the item as presented.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5D?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept staff's request.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Schuline to approve item 5D,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Can I have your votes, please? Item's approved. Thank you for your time, sir. Okay, item E is from me, is to consider a formation of a subcommittee to study the neighborhood traffic management strategies and techniques. We have staff input concerning this issue.
Well, what's before you is the opportunity to form a commission subcommittee to look at the notion of traffic calming in general. If you jump to the next actions portion of the report, if the commission decides to form a committee to look at this, at the concepts and what can be involved in something like this, one of the initial steps would be to have a preliminary meeting to sit down, discuss what kind of what things are considered traffic calming techniques, and make a decision as to where you want to go from there, what your expectations are going to be for the programs that may be developed, and there might be either policy changes, code changes, amendments, or something like that that spill off into other areas, because, I mean, there may be things that get referred to planning as a result of this. I don't know. But at this point in time, it's for the commission to consider forming a subcommittee to just sit and explore options, and see what there is, see what the state of the practice is, and see what other communities have done.
Very good, thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
I'll vote for it ahead of time.
Yeah.
I certainly move to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Littlefield to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any talk on this item, Commissioner Littlefield?
I'm glad we're at this point, and it took a little bit longer than I thought that it would, but of course there's interruptions in life. But have had some good dialogue with lots of different folks over the past several months, including the feedback from this commission on the survey, with great interest in looking at this and studying it more and seeing if things can be done differently, better, more effective for the folks who live in neighborhoods to help calm traffic for them, not only existing neighborhoods, but look at the plat regulations and things on the Planning Commission side for new neighborhoods. One of the things that Chairman Yokel suggested is discussion about perhaps shorter blocks in new subdivision regulations. So there's a lot of work ahead, but it's interesting work. I think it would be fun work, and I think that in the end it would really provide some good solutions to traffic calming for neighborhoods in the city if we did this, and I'm certainly enthusiastic about it. So I'd love to get going on it.
Okay, do we have any other talk on this item? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second everything that Commissioner Littlefield said. The attendants and the audience today is obviously interested in Ward 6, so I definitely support this.
Okay, very good. Do we have any other motion, any other talk on the item?
A question for those who have led the front end of this. It sounds like it's focused primarily on residential areas. Is there consideration to, and it's also a focus on the benefit for the non-motorized street users. I think there's an opportunity, because we are spread out. We have a lot of rural roads, to be mindful of the rural road user, and it's not just for the benefit of the non-motorized user. The motorized user could use a calmer street, certainly in a rural area as well. So I would ask, this in quotes, fourth paragraph down, I'm not exactly sure where it came from. I agree with it, certainly in a residential area. I'd like to see us broaden the concept of traffic calming in Oklahoma City, because we have a lot of rural on top of residential.
So would you, Commissioner Littlefield, maybe make a change to the request to take out just neighborhood and just say to study traffic management strategies and techniques? Or did you want to stay focused on neighborhoods right now?
What's really interesting about this is that a lot of the traffic calming techniques that have come to light to me are traffic calming techniques that have been exercised in commercial areas. When we look at Project 180, when we looked at the Western Avenue corridor review of that streetscape, currently we're looking at a small portion of Northwest 39th Street between Penn and Young's. There are traffic calming elements that are being implemented in commercial districts that appear to be working, that are getting there by bonds or other sources. Absolutely, I think it would be wise to look at traffic calming for all things that this commission looks at. I wouldn't see any reason why not.
Okay, so if you could restate your motion, just let me restate it, that you have a motion to approve a formation of a subcommittee to study traffic management strategies and techniques.
Absolutely.
Just take away the neighborhood based upon
Yes.
it. And so our second, Commissioner Schuline, would you agree? Okay, staff, do you have any additional input? I know you've been waiting to push the button.
Well, when you start looking at items like speed controls, really the primary call that you get is not along the arterial system when it comes to management aspects. It's really within the kind of like the neighborhood environment. I know there are a number of policies that are out there that from other communities that are practicing this, but typically once you get a road classification of collector or above, they don't look at these techniques any longer. because it becomes
But if I
kind of...
remember one we had a while back where it was a 45-mile-an-hour curvy road that was a major artery street kind of thing, and we recommended to lower it down just a little bit. You know, that kind of talk, is there some, you know, so there are times, I think, when where a boulevard-looking street or something like that may need some common, even though it's a major road.
I think you're referring to Pebblestone?
I can't remember which one it
Pebblestone
was.
Parkway?
But those kind of things.
Well, now, see, that's also in a residential environment, too. So, I mean, really, those are the things to kind of focus in on. I mean, you can start, I would recommend that you start out looking at it at a neighborhood level, and then maybe look upward from there if you get that far along in the process. But, you know, right now, the biggest call that you get is, you know, is dealing with things in existing residential areas. That's the biggest thrust.
I think, you know, where my mind is on this, I think most of the challenges that we hear here are with speeding and cut-through traffic and things like that, our neighborhoods. That's where we hear those, and that's where we have a really restricted source of tools to help solve those problems. Perhaps, you know, my mind is telling me that in the process of discovery, we're going to learn from major roads, major arterial roads in commercial districts and traffic calming elements that work there and be able to apply in a certain way to neighborhoods. And I think that there's going to be a vice versa. I think that we're going to discover some things that may be effective in other areas. So instead of trying to be too specific on what the committee is doing, let's just agree that it primarily will be focused on neighborhood issues, because that's where it seems to be the most challenge for solutions, but have a commercial arterial road side to it, where we can have like two different kind of reports or elements or two lists of ideas. You know, with that, it's really hard to get this real specific, I think.
Okay. And then one other point is you'll look at established areas and also plans to build up new areas, both issues. Because you got the 1950s, 60s roads and with all the extra volume compared to building new areas so they don't create problems.
The committee would need to be focused on current existing neighborhood speeding and cut-through traffic problems, et cetera, and also elements to be considered to be applied to new residential development projects. That's where the Planning Commission would be involved with this committee.
Okay.
And they are willing.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? So what I'm just going to throw out there is, first of all, we'll go ahead and approve it, then or disapprove it, and then once it would be approved, then we would ask for volunteers to serve on it. No more than 4, so you can't have a quorum, and then we'll just go from there. Okay, so we have a motion to approve item 5E modified by taking neighborhood out by Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, we do have a subcommittee now on studying traffic management. Would you like to come up and speak for just a moment? Can I have your name and your address, please?
Thank you. My name is Claudia Connor.
And you have up to 5 minutes.
I won't take that. I live on Northwest 18th Street, 910 Northwest 18th Street. I've been here before. I've been working on my little corner of the world since June of 2012, trying to get less traffic. I have tried several things, and I have not been successful, so I asked if I could meet with Secretary Chai so I could get the benefit of his expertise. He did send out counters in June of this year, a year later. We got to that point, and I have been asking monthly for some input. I understand he's very, very busy, and I did get the raw data about a week ago. And the reason I'm here is for 2 reasons. I saw this, and there's a sign in my neighborhood, and I wanted to find out more about this item in particular, and because there was an incident on my street just on the 12th where a child was almost hit. There's Classen High School down the corner from us, and somebody wrote me a note about it, and I thought I might just read it to you. It said, A child was walking, a boy, 14 to 15 years old, class and school uniform, brown hair, slightly dragging his left foot, walking west on 18th through the sidewalk. The traffic did not stop. He almost got hit. And she mentions it's the same place where her child, she has a lot of dogs, and her dog was run over. Also, when in our neighborhood newsletter that goes out, I just got an email from somebody that said, is there an update on this? I've almost been creamed twice when biking, running, and there are little kids who walk down our block every day to school, Northwest 18th. And Claudia, we're near Ollie as well. And then she goes on to give an idea about what she thinks would be helpful. But it doesn't matter what I think or she thinks. You all are the experts, and that's what I'm seeking help with. If it's appropriate for me to help with this committee that you all, subcommittee you all are forming, I'd be happy to. I live in specifically an old, historic neighborhood that due to increased volume on Northwest 13th, there's the Edge apartment houses going in, and on 23rd, there's a resurgence of new restaurants, and people like to go down these streets. I've asked for stop signs. That's not particularly successful, frankly, without enforcement. We did get increased enforcement briefly after the dog was run over, and now I can't tell you how many people a day. You all couldn't be out there all the time if I or my neighbors called. So I'm just looking for solutions, and I would be happy to be part of that solution, but I need guidance and assistance.
So if you don't mind, we'd give your information to Commissioner Littlefield, and he can make contact with you if they meet or something, and you can
Thank
be
you.
part of it.
Now, I just want, do your subcommittees meet during the day, or?
He hasn't decided. I mean,
Okay.
we haven't got there yet.
Haven't gotten there yet, but a huge email will be a huge part of it, I believe, this committee's work.
Thank you.
And Stuart will be happy to share with you my contact information.
Because if speed bumps are appropriate, and that's what you all do, I don't know if they're appropriate, but, or flashing signs. I was just in Tulsa, and I noticed there's a street just like Western, and it has sort of a flashing sign that says 20, 20, 20, or 25, whatever it is. But anyway, so from my understanding is the appropriate way is to be on this committee or to give an input, and then
Sure.
the residential historical. All right. And can I ask Secretary Chai, from the raw data that you've collected, what might be the next step with that?
That would probably be one of the items that we would, bring forth to the committee, just to let them know the types of situations that are out there in the real world.
Okay,
that
and
they
in the
might wanna
meantime,
consider looking at.
due to this instance of this child and too distant future where this dog was hit, do we just move as quickly as we can and hope for the best, or is there anything that can be done in the meantime?
Well, at this point in time, on Northwest 18th Street, when you're looking at the area from about Chartel to the west over to about Classen, every intersection's either got, the intersections of Classen and Western are both signal controlled. All the other intersecting streets on 18th Street, well, every intersection is always stop controlled, and the posted speed limit's 25. So at this point in time, there is everything in the way of traffic controls that can be out there on 18th Street is out there.
And that's
based on what we've got today.
Excuse me, thank you. That's what Secretary Chai told me. He said it's an enforcement issue. In my opinion, when you've got 500 cars coming down the street, that's different than 10 cars coming down the street. 10 cars, you have a lot less trouble. You have a lot less people that might run a stop sign. So when you've got 400 or 500, it's a volume question. It's not an enforcement question. I have some more ideas about how you could change the light at Northwestern and 18th Street, but should I bring those forward? Should I get grassroots momentum going and get signatures from my neighborhood? Would that be the appropriate way to get it quicker?
Okay, well, what is it you had in mind just at 18th and Western?
Well, and that's why I thought we had met to discuss it. One thing is
right now we're talking about item 5E, which
Okay.
is the subcommittee.
Okay.
We have comments from citizens, which is going to be next.
Thank you.
So if you'd like to
Thank
talk
you.
about a
Thank you.
specific kind of thing, we'll bring you back up.
I'll answer your
Right,
question.
very good. Okay.
Could you come back up for a moment, please?
He has a question for the subcommittee.
You could not have defined better why this subcommittee is being formed. It's the absolute reason why. And absolutely, there will be citizen and neighborhood input. I'm sure that the committee will be looking at. There's a retired home builder, two very young, progressive new home builders and developers that I've had conversations with over the past several months that are very interested in this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well-
Well, there is a Heritage Hills and Mesta Park, that's where I live, Mesta Park, is trying to become part of their traffic group, and so I know they'll have input, and so that may be certainly appropriate too, and Commissioner Schuline can tell us about that.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Okay, so I would throw out there that we asked Commissioner Littlefield to chair this subcommittee. He's done the legwork over the last several months. And Commissioner Newton has said that he wanted to be on it. Is there anybody else that would like to be on this subcommittee? Commissioner Schuline, there's three. Three's good. We could go to 4 if you want to, but you don't have to. Okay? So we have 3. 3's perfect. Okay, so would you mind chairing the subcommittee so that way you can provide inputs every month or whenever you have input during our subcommittee time? Okay, now item 6, comments from citizens who would like to talk about different things. And you get your clock started over again. Would you like to talk about where you were going? If I could have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Claudia Connor, 910 Northwest 18th Street. I was just going to answer Secretary Chai's question, but frankly, I've forgotten his question, so can you repeat it?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
You said you were discussing, you said you had ideas, concept changes for 18th and Western.
Yes, which I've had for a year and a half almost, and I would like to see the light changed. I mean, I just don't know what's appropriate, but if it were up to me, I would make it where you're going south on Northwest 18th Street, that the street between 16th and 18th be changed back into a two-way instead of a one-way, so that there's more than one way to go, that potentially there be the medians be rebuilt so that they could be larger, so that bigger trucks could not get down them, and you would have to slow down, much like the bump that's in the middle of Northwest 36th between Classen and Blackwelder. It's just a bump in the middle of the road with a tree in it, and so everybody has to kind of slow down. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It's in a historic neighborhood, so you have to slow down to get past this. So we have medians in the middle. If there were larger ends, then people would have to take a little extra time to go down. If I had a picture, I could explain it better. But as opposed to just whipping around the corner and going, you know. So, and also, this may be a pipe dream, but if there were no right turn from the corner of 18th, and if you weren't going south on Western, instead of almost everybody, and I think your records will support this, turns east there. And it's a lovely little drive, and then they zip down the street, and it's a residential neighborhood. It's not a main thoroughfare. There's 13th, 23rd, Classen, Broadway. There's a lot of large streets around there that people could take. So those are some of my ideas. In fact, I have them written down. You and I can discuss it further if you like, so that I don't take up the commission's time.
Right, I can send you some information on guidance as to how to submit a request for things like that.
Can you help me with the data that you gathered and what might be successful for a request like that?
We'll certainly go through the information we have and share with you kind of a broken down analysis of what we find.
Okay.
Because I think, the information that I provided with you was raw data, like you mentioned, but it just didn't have, our analysis in it indicating, what we've seen and that sort of thing.
Do you have a general idea about the time frame for that?
It's difficult. It's exceptionally difficult to commit to something like that. I'm not even sure when the first subcommittee for this group is going to get together.
So it's specifically within the framework of this subcommittee as opposed to a separate
I would say it would be a good starting place for the subcommittee to take a look at items.
I would imagine we would meet before the next traffic commission hearing, within the next couple of weeks, probably, wouldn't you imagine?
Because It appears to me that you hear this a lot, and people are concerned about the children, but from this, I just want you all to understand that there's a school nearby, and kids are walking to it, and my daughter used to, and when you're in 6th grade, you're not all that smart. So it's something to think about. So I appreciate it.
Okay, very good. Any other comments from citizens? Okay, reports and other items from the traffic commissioners, et cetera. Commissioner Witcher.
Nothing to report, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Is it appropriate to ask a question of staff for just public clarity on an issue? In a taxi zone, the required marking for a taxi zone is the 2 signs, period? There's no curb painting or anything like that?
That's correct. At this point in time, there's nothing in Oklahoma City's municipal code that governs the meaning of any pavement marking colors used for curbs. So anything that was put on a curb would be, there's nothing in codes to back it up. And signs are the most appropriate means of identifying those locations.
And considered accurate and appropriate?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And one other item, on Denniston Drive at Drexel Avenue, Denniston Drive is a street that comes down the east side of Denniston Park behind Taft Stadium. And the neighborhood is working very hard to come up with an application to calm traffic along that park, but they're recognizing speeding. And they asked if it would be possible to get an officer to sit there for a period of time and see if that could be abated temporarily.
And what was it, Denniston Drive and what?
Denniston Drive at Drexel Avenue. It's just north of Northwest 23rd off Drexel.
And they're speeding on Drexel or Denniston?
Denniston runs from Drexel to Northwest 27th Street. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Yonkel.
Nothing.
Commissioner Hill.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Shuline.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. As Claudia alluded to, there might also be a need for some, not might, I guess there really is a need for some selective enforcement if you possibly could along 18th Street between Western and Chartel.
I wrote down her contact information, and I'll call you because I'm not exactly sure which enforcement you're talking about, which street. I mean, I have your address, but it's good if we can be exact on what we're enforcing. And also the lady on Sterling that we install the no parking signs, if staff will let me know as soon as they're installed. Because, you know, they may give them some warning, but they're only going to enforce them if we're out there probably, to be honest with you. So.
I had one other issue. With the additional development that was alluded to today along Northwest 23rd and Northwest 13th, it does seem that there are some competing interests on traffic controls in those neighborhoods that Claudia alluded to, and they have formed a committee of the 3 neighborhoods, Master Park, Heritage Hills, and Heritage Hills East. But I think at some point in the future, it may be appropriate that we look at a comprehensive study that kind of encompasses that whole area, because we visited with the Uptown 23rd group, and that was a recommendation that came from them as well. But I think that's something that will come in the future. If you wouldn't mind, maybe a month or 2, we might come back with some specific outcomes that we'd like to see addressed or looked at in the form of that study.
So you're going to be bringing...
We'll be bringing it to you, but not this month, but perhaps next month. That's okay.
Okay.
And you're talking a group of several neighborhood associations,
Right.
kind of all agreeing that in this part of the town, this is what we'd like to see.
Exactly.
And the reasons why and all that, and then the staff could do their data analysis. And
That's correct.
sound good?
It'll either be that or we'll be exploring. It may be a request for some capital improvements. That might be something that might be funded under future bond program or something along that line. It would depend on what kind of, on what the area is interested in seeing in the way of change.
Definitely, Uptown 23rd is looking at some things for the next bond issue for sure. We'd like to kind of make this all inclusive.
Very good. Okay, and Commissioner Jenkins.
A few months ago, we approved the removal of school zone signs for the Garvey School, and that's been done. The radio lines have been taken out of the prospect, and also the signs are down.
Thank you, staff. Yeah. Okay, Jill, any input? Nothing? Sir? See? No? Mr. Chai?
All right. We've got our standard report on yield signs and and one neighborhood parking control that was installed to address a localized nuisance that we can handle under existing ordinances. You'll also see that we've got two other little reports for you. One is based on some changes that will occur on Northwest 39th Street between Penn and Youngs. This is something that originated in the planning department. It is basically going to narrow Western Avenue down from 4 lanes to 2, and I believe the planning department will be submitting an amendment to the bicycle transportation plan to add bicycle lanes on Western Avenue, not Western Avenue, but on Northwest 39th Street. So that information is provided for you.
Just to refresh my memory on the bicycle transportation plan and then the bike routes. The plan is submitted by the Planning Commission to City Council, am I correct? And that was for future planning. And then we made recommendations to make bike routes off of it. Is that how it went?
The planning staff is, they produced and they maintain the bicycle transportation plan.
Okay.
And the last item that the Traffic Commission had relative to bicycles and bike routes was it would refer back to the plan as it may be amended. And that plan, if there's an amendment made to it, that goes through the Planning Commission process and then goes, I believe it would go to the City Council for ratification.
And then it would automatically become a bike route.
Correct. Well, or lane, or however the plan is amended.
Right, that's what we said was whatever the plan says, that's what we want.
Correct.
Okay, that's right, I remember that. Okay, thank you.
All right. So you've got that from us, and you'll probably see some media attention this coming Wednesday on Northwest Expressway in the area between Blackwelder and Belle Isle Boulevard. An insurance company is working with us, and we will be installing a trio of Watch for Motorcycle signs. This is in an area where just about a year ago, and one of Oklahoma City police officers' husbands perished in a collision. He was riding a motorcycle, and a vehicle turned in front of him. That occurred on Northwest Expressway at Belle Isle Boulevard, and what we're doing is we're putting up some advanced Watch for Motorcycle signs on that westbound approach. So I think that it will be receiving a fair amount of media attention this coming Wednesday, just for your information.
Seeing as you brought up the word media attention, right around now is when the planning people were talking about the bike public awareness timeframe, the September, October, where the money was going to become available and we'd start seeing ads and billboards and things like that. Could you ask them?
Would you like an updated presentation?
Just an update. Well, doesn't have to be a presentation, just something back to you, just saying, is that still kind of about ready? We've been waiting for that to happen.
I will request a report.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion from Commissioner Hale, second by Commissioner Jenkins. Can I have your votes, please? Everybody vote yes, please. Okay. And we're out of here.